So something I think a lot of mainstream commentators and just kind of people who hold mainstream normal political opinions, like not kind of like alternative left or alternative right or like social justice or like nationalist or traditionalist political views, miss out on, and it's something I've been trying very hard to get across in my videos, is that the details of this whole thing don't matter. Whether, like, who George Floyd was doesn't matter. The details of what actually happened doesn't matter. Police brutality doesn't matter. The actual statistics don't matter. The riots don't matter. What they're over. None of these things, like, matter at all. This whole thing is just identity politics. And I think until you understand that, and until you kind of filter out all the noise, kind of all the pretenses that are put on to try to appeal to certain more mainstream groups, you're not going to really understand this thing at all. So what do I mean by this? Okay, so let's start off and give some examples of what I'm talking about. So I did a video a couple days back about how the Black Civil War Regiment's memorial got defaced. And people were saying, like, why would they do that? Why would they deface a monument to their own people? That kind of thing. And the truth of the matter is, it's irrelevant. It could be like a monument to Martin Luther King or something like that. The issue is, it's irrelevant. It's just a pure identity politics thing. The monument represents America. It represents the civilization and the culture and the people of America, and they are against that. So the monument could be to a black person, it could be to an abolitionist, it could be to someone who has nothing to do with blacks in America, like Christopher Columbus. It's completely irrelevant, and you'll hear conservative commentators going, "Oh, this is about civil rights. Then why are they destroying statues of civil rights leaders? Why are they destroying statues of abolitionists? Why are they defacing monuments celebrating their own freedom?" Because it's not about any of those things. It's not about police brutality. There's any number of places you can go to look at the statistics. It's been proven dozens, if not hundreds of times, that it's a lie. It's not nearly an issue. And I don't really want to go into all of that now. Alternative Hypothesis and many other people have covered this issue better than I ever could. But even if that wasn't the case, it's irrelevant. I mean, to me, I think that's just something you have to understand. Whether or not blacks are more victimized than police doesn't matter. They could be 90% less victimized by the police than white people, or they could be 100% more victimized by the police than white people. It's not about that. It's not about civil rights. What it's about is identity politics. In particular, Black Lives Matter is a lobby group for the black, I don't know if you want to call them black race or like the African American ethnic group, is a purely an identitarian lobby. And I don't really have any problem with that. As I've said, my only issue is that I'm not allowed to have my own version of it, and like white people aren't, and Christians largely aren't, and they are. But that's what it's about. It's about getting a better societal deal for them. It's not about like what the economy is like. It's not about the black employment rate. It's not about affirmative action. It's just lobbying for more stuff. And once again, I don't necessarily have a problem with that in principle. And I mean, to a certain extent, if you actually look at it anywhere past like the most basic rhetoric, it's pretty obvious this is what it's about. The abolition of police departments is just a naked power move. A lot of this is about power. It's almost kind of like dom submissive, if you want to go that route, where white people, particularly white liberals, have like a fetish for being humiliated and being dominated, and minorities in this case are being the dominators. So it's about power relations, and it's about proving your power over someone else and getting more out of it. It's, if you look at the actual demands, it's like release all black people from prison, give money to all black people, including non-African Americans, including like Africans who I think make more money on average than white Americans. The demands are basically for everything. But once again, it's not about any particular demand. If you were to give them everything they wanted, if you were to give every black American a yearly stipend of $1 million and make them immune from all crime, they would still say that they were oppressed and they would still demand more stuff. Because that's how most people who aren't like white liberals behave, is their primary goal is not some abstract idea of justice, not some abstract idea of truth. And once again, I've talked about this many times where people are trying to say, well, George Floyd was a thug, he was a porn star, he pointed a gun at a pregnant woman's stomach. They don't care about that. You can explain that to them as much as they want, but this isn't about George Floyd. This isn't about police brutality. This is about one ethnic group showing their dominance over another in order to improve their social standing within a society. However, white liberals, probably because they can't think in terms of their own self-interest, and less than that, they can't even think in terms of their self-preservation, which is why I have a lot more disgust for them than I do for Black Lives Matter. Because, I mean, at the end of the day, I can understand taking advantage of a weak person who's not going to punish you for committing crimes and using that opportunity to steal stuff. I get it. You wanted that PS5, you wanted that big screen TV, you wanted the drugs or whatever. So you live in a society where that's run by dumb, weak white people who won't punish you and in fact will reward you if you behave in that fashion by giving you more stuff after you riot and loot and steal shit. So I get that, and I can respect that. I can respect acting at a very crude level in your own self-interest. I can't respect white liberals, though, who act against their self-interest, who don't even understand the concept of self-interest, who don't even understand the concept of survival. Because they will, like, in the case of, like, Britain, in the case of Sweden, they will willingly submit their kids to being, like, raped and sold into slavery just to show how virtuous they are. And this is something I know Thomas Aquinas said the most deadly sin is pride. And something that I really took away when I was reading C.S. Lewis is there's two types of sins. There's sins of a corrupt nature and sins of a corrupt will. Sins of a corrupt nature are something we all possess as being human. They're things like sloth, gluttony, greed, that kind of thing. Everybody just wants stuff. They want money. They want, like, a nicer car, a nicer house, that sort of thing. People can't really help that. That's just kind of something as a person. You see that chocolate cake and you know it's bad for you and you want to eat it. The same thing with sex. We're biologically wired to want sex and to want to reproduce. So when people give in to those, it's very understandable and relatable because these are things that all humans express. So in this case, rioting, looting, wanting more money, these are very basic human impulses. And I can't feel particularly like, I don't like it, obviously. I think it's disgusting. It's violating any number of God's commandments. But I can understand it as a human. Something I can't understand is white liberals and their sin of pride, which is the worst sin. Because that's a sin of a corrupt will. That means you're fundamentally twisted beyond just normal human corruption. It's not just your body's twisted. It's not just that your nature's flawed, but you're fundamentally, like, there's something fundamentally wrong with you on a basic level. And that's what it's all about, is they're so proud and they're so obsessed with appearing virtuous and they're so obsessed with status and being praised by other people that they're willing to give up their most basic senses that, like, animals have. Like cockroaches will try to skitter away, but they don't even have that. And they lie to themselves and they say it's not about pride, it's not about that. It's about police reform, it's about racism. But at the end of the day, none of this is about that. It's about ethnic politics or identity politics on the part of Black Lives Matter. Kind of naked racial ethnic self-interest, which once again I don't really have a problem with. I mean, like I said, it's human nature. It's kind of like where people complain about Israel taking money from the United States. I mean, if you could get free money from the US government, you'd probably take it too. I mean, if the US government's going to be stupid enough to just give Israel money, then can you really blame them for taking it? I mean, it's like if you're a kid and your mother's going to give you more cookies than you probably should be eating, you're probably going to take the cookies. If she's just like, okay, just go eat this entire pack of cookies, you know you're going to be sick the next day, but you're going to do it. And that I can understand, and that I can kind of relate to. But the inability of white liberals to act like, even like I said, in their most basic self-preservation instincts. Like they're literally the kind of animal where, like, if you're a mouse and a cat is chasing you, they'll just stand there and let the cat eat them. They're like that. If they're an ant and their colony is being attacked, they won't defend their queen. They won't even run away. They'll just stand there and let the anteater eat them. That's just their attitude towards life. And I just find that completely repulsive. And like I said, I can understand ethnic self-interest. I can understand wanting power over other groups so you can get more stuff. It is rational self-interest. It's evil, it's bad in a lot of ways, but it's reality. Whereas for white liberals, it's mostly about pride and appearing virtuous, which is utterly disgusting to me. So yeah, I think that's just what I wanted to say. This isn't about George Floyd. This isn't about racial justice. This isn't about reparations. It's about getting stuff and getting away with things. And I don't necessarily have a problem with that as a matter of politics. I do as a matter of morals and religion, but we're not talking about that at the moment. So I hope that kind of brings a bit of a clarity to the issue. And yeah, so hope you enjoyed the video. God bless. Try to stay safe out there in these insane times.